You're lucky I'm not sending you home in a bucket.
But there's one person you will never, ever defeat.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Charlie. This will be my full video for The Boys Season 4, Episode 7. There were a whole bunch of Easter eggs and references. There's only one more episode left to the finale, so we'll break it all down. If you're brand new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get all the episodes. Big reminder, too, is they revealed that Season 5 will be the last season of the main show, but the spin-offs will continue. There'll be other spin-offs, too. There are already a couple that are getting ready to air right now. Just starting at the beginning of the episode, the title was The Insider, which is a reference to issue 46 of the Boys comic book, where Huey winds up learning the Butcher has an informant inside the Seven. On the show, it was a reference to both A-Train being the insider on the Seven, working with the Boys, but also on the other side, it was meant to reference the doppelganger version of Starlight that's trying to get all the evidence on Victoria Neumann back for the Seven. The way they play the episode just in general is that it's meant to be taking place during the Christmas holiday, so they start the episode like they're practicing for a Christmas special that Ryan is going to do based on the Avenue V in-universe TV show that we saw during the Gen V episodes with all the puppets, but it's also meant to be a parody of Avenue Q in Sesame Street in real life. The way they start Ryan's Christmas special episode too also feels a little bit like a Mr. Rogers episode. Won't you be our neighbor? Within the context of the show, though, the reason why it's during Christmas is because you have to remember they're planning for this January 6th insurrection, which is also a big reference to the 2020 January 6th big insurrection that happened at the U.S. Capitol. There are a lot of real-life political references during this episode. No big surprise, they've been doing that for a while on the Boys TV show now. Whole lot of January 6th references. You can see in the background a lot of the decorations they have around the set are meant to reflect what's happening with the Seven in present day, like Homelander is with Firecracker because of their milk mommy-based relationship that just started. There are a couple of jokes about that later in the episode, too. They reveal the Christmas special is airing on the Vought Kids network, which is kind of like their in-universe version of the Disney Channel or like the Nickelodeon Channel. The song in general is meant to be very pro-Vought, pro-Homelander's plans, like he personally approved the lyrics because a lot of the lyrics get into the idea of his big takeover that he has planned and the dictatorship that he wants to install in the United States. It calls out a lot of Starlight supporters, anti-superhero people, anti-America people. There's a bunch of anti-woke, anti-LGBT groomer stuff during the song. All the crazy stuff that you typically hear Firecracker yelling about. The even crazier thing is that a lot of the stuff in the song that they're parodying and the stuff that Firecracker says, like her lines of dialogue, are taken directly from speeches given by real-life politicians. So even though the Boys TV show trades on a lot of ultra-violence and like really crazy WTF stuff, is one of those cases where real life is stranger than fiction. Notice a lot of Ryan's reaction to the song too, like he's hearing it for the first time and it just completely sounds nuts to him. The other funny thing about this, too, is that the whole log cabin structure of the set reminds me of Homelander's crazy log cabin hideaway from Season 2, where he got up to all the illest stuff with that doppelganger. R.I.P. to that doppelganger. He wound up killing that version. The doppelganger in this episode that they go after, and that we see at the end of the episode, is like a completely new character. Back at Vought Tower, Ashley says that they made an apology to a Jewish temple organization, probably because they just did something super anti-Semitic or super racist, which is very in character for something Vought would do. We find out Firecracker is continuing to mess with Sage, trying to move meeting times. Like her whole thing has been trying to drive a wedge between Homelander and her, and it seems like it's working so far, thanks to all the milk from last week's episode. But here's the thing, a lot of it seems like Sage knew what was going down, and she's just moving pieces around the board, playing them like four-dimensional chess. So even though it seems like Sage was surprised by getting fired by Homelander at the end of the episode, I think she actually has a contingency plan for this, and she knew that it would probably wind up happening. There have been a lot of questions about her character turns throughout the different episodes, like does she know things, does she not know things, why does she allow certain things to happen? They basically wind up explaining that when she does get fired by Homelander. And as a lot of people assumed early on, because she's meant to be the smartest person alive, it's all part of her larger plan. So anytime she seems like she's been acting really stupid, it's something that she planned on happening. So it'll be fun to see what her plan has in store for the Firecracker character, because right now Firecracker seems like she's got one up on her when that is clearly not the case. Like clearly she's going to get her comeuppance at some point. Her milk-based comeuppance. As she mentions NFTs, Vought basically does literally anything, any scam that they can make money on. So like you hear them yelling about this in the background during different episodes randomly. Homelander starts getting on Sage about the leak again, like we all believed, and they confirm later in the episode, she knew that it was A-Train the whole time, like she told him as much in a previous episode, but she was letting it continue because he was feeding the boys misinformation or any information that she wanted them to have, because she was also pushing the boys around the board like a bunch of chess pieces as well, too. They were essentially playing into her hand at each turn, and she just wanted A-Train to continue doing that. But because of what Homelander did in the episode, it just made that harder for her to do. Not impossible, but harder. She's also right when she says that it doesn't matter that the boys killed Tech Knight and learned about their master plan to take over the United States, because going public with the info would destroy any chance they have of killing Victoria Neumann, which they really want to do. Which is also why at the end of the episode, Sage has her doppelganger sneak into Huey's pretending to be Starlight, getting it on with him to get back that laptop with all the info on Victoria Neumann so that they can't leak it. She's also not wrong when she says that Butcher is going to die in a few months no matter what because of his cancer. The V-powered tumor, like the sentient tumor, will not save his life ultimately. He'll still die no matter what. And moving against the boys in an open way would put them on the CIA's radar and bring way too much attention to the Seven that they want. Firecracker makes a Mike Lindell reference, saying they lost him as a big contributor to Vought, who was buying a lot of ad space on their networks. He's the pillow company owner in real life, who was parodied endlessly for his ties to Trump during the last election cycle, and even before that too. I would not recommend looking for a lot of videos of him online. Like, a lot of the stuff that they put on The Boys here, a lot of these jokes, lines of dialogue, like I said, especially with Firecracker's character, are literally taken word from real-life speeches that politicians or other real-life people have given. The actress who plays Firecracker also said that she talked to the showrunner because one of the lines of dialogue that she was getting ready to speak sounded so ridiculous that she thought that it was way too much for the actual show, until the showrunner then told her, no, this is based on a real-life speech. I think it's the Jewish space lasers speech that she gave in a previous episode. Like, there's no way anybody would say anything this crazy in real life, but turns out it's another case of real life being stranger than fiction. Someone really did say that. Sage also calls her Daisy Duck, meaning that Disney is canon in the Boys universe, but I think they mentioned Disney before. And on top of that, just in general, Vought, outside of the pharma side of their business, is meant to be a parody of Disney just in general, like everything that Disney does. All the Marvel, all the Star Wars, all the theme park stuff. Homelander says that he and Firecracker will find the leak, which they do not. He mentions the 6th. They make a bunch of January 6th references. Like I already explained, that's a reference to the insurrection from January 6, 2020. But in the context of the universe, the boys think that that's when the Seven are going to try and assassinate President Robert Singer so that Victoria Neumann can become the new president. We get a bunch more scenes of the Deep with his octopus girlfriend Ambrosius, played by Tilda Swinton. Very octopus-themed book. It seems like their relationship is pretty good here, but then obviously goes very, very south during the episode. She winds up being totally correct. Sage does wind up just using him because they have this weird love quadrangle going on between the octopus, the Deep, Sage, and the new Black Noir. Talk about relationship drama. They mostly wind up using it for a joke at the end of the episode, though. We find out the Deep is trying to make it into Shia LaBeouf's Honey Boy 2 sequel movie. He's talked about this several times in different episodes, trying to or almost getting different movies, like he's trying to be an actor just in general. Starlight tries to get her mother to move somewhere safer in the desert because of the chaos that's going to erupt once Homelander enacts his master plan. Her mother still seems like a pretty terrible person and an even worse mom. We find out that Huey saved her original Starlight suit that she threw away at the end of Season 3, also setting up the end of the episode when the other doppelganger or shapeshifter replaces her and uses it when they get it on. A-Train winds up learning about Sage's doppelganger character, but it takes them a while to figure out that it is a doppelganger. When they mention Lee Harvey, that's a Lee Harvey Oswald reference, the man who supposedly shot JFK. They think this person has been hired to shoot Robert Singer, the current president. Butcher comes back to the boys. His condition is getting even worse. His sentient tumor also tries to get him to not tell the boys about the weapon in yoinking Samir. Love the way Huey also suddenly realizes that Butcher cut his leg off. Like, you just sawing people's legs off? All the global pandemic talk feels like a reference to the real-life global pandemic from the past few years. Like, everybody still has PTSD from that. So anytime there's any talk of any virus on the TV show, you kind of wince just a little bit. We find out that he got Frenchie out of Tech Knight's prison using Mallory's help at the CIA, claiming that he didn't want to leave either, like he wanted to stay in that prison. But they want to use his unique chemistry skills to help finish the Compound V weapon. Back at Homelander's apartment in Vought Tower, it looks like Christmas exploded inside. All these presents are probably for Ryan, like Homelander's going overboard trying to spoil Ryan. As you probably guessed, the dirty present from Don T. B. Cunt is from Butcher, and it's him trying to say his funny phrase to Ryan, like, don't be a C word. He's given Ryan his picture of him and Becca and their dog Terror, who's also from the comics, from before they met Homelander and Becca was taken away to give birth to Ryan, like before Butcher became Butcher, essentially. Mother's Milk puts Butcher back in charge of the boys because he claims he has to deal with his daughter, he's worried about his OCD flaring up again, passing out on another mission, and he thinks that he should leave the country with his family. Spoiler alert though, even though he wants to send them to Belize, like, well, we'll just wait till things blow over, things will probably not blow over. Like, even if they're successful, things will get crazy, and if they're not successful, they'll get really crazy, and eventually superheroes would theoretically take over the entire planet, so nowhere would be safe. We see Ashley crying over Cameron Coleman. Turns out she really did care about him in her own twisted, very, very messed up way. And it turns out Vought is saying that he died from a brain aneurysm caused by the flu vaccine. So now Vought is also weirdly anti-vax. Normally, because Vought is a pharma company, they'd be the primary sellers of vaccines in the boys' universe. So you think they'd want people buying more of them, not less. A-Train comes to see her, and we find out that she's fired her assistant, Gregory, because she didn't want him to get killed. So they do want to show you that Ashley does have some good inside her, but ultimately she's unable to break free of the cycle, break free of Homelander and Vought, like she feels trapped there. Butcher has it out with his sentient tumor again, keeps messing with him, reminds him about getting it on with Queen Maeve last season. We'll probably see that actress come back on the show in season 5. He mentions Kimiko, Starlight, Ryan, all his friends and loved ones who have Compound V and would theoretically be killed by the weapon. His whole line about having faith in Ryan is meant to foreshadow the end of the episode when Ryan does speak out on national TV and almost winds up revealing Homelander's entire master plan around the entire world, proving to Butcher that he was right to try and save Ryan. Yet remember, the worry is that if Ryan were to go evil, they would wind up creating another even worse version of Homelander, and nobody wants that. But theoretically, I think the show wants to have a hopeful ending for the Ryan character. We also find out, because the tumor knows everything that Butcher knows, like it's part of his brain essentially, that he cheated on Becca when they were together, meaning that he was never really a perfect person, like he always had problems and he was low-grade messed up because of his traumatic childhood. If you remember all the episodes with his father, he is super messed up. So even before all the Homelander business, before the events of season 1 pick up, things were really bad for Butcher. What they've been doing, though, is they've been positioning the sentient tumor as a sort of like devil on Butcher's shoulder, trying to get him to do all the worst things, like basically all the worst aspects of his mind, given physical form. It'd be kind of like the Venom movies if Venom was way more evil, like original comic book Venom. Then the boys start investigating that doppelganger character. They find Secret Service protection detail on the president for January 6th. They see what looks like a plan to assassinate him, but I don't know if this is all meant to be part of Sage's misdirect. Like this is all part of Sage's longer plan to actually get the doppelganger inside Huey's to get that information on Victoria Neumann back. When Butcher mentions Dealey Plaza, that's another JFK assassination reference. Dealey Plaza was the place where Lee Harvey Oswald was found when they were looking for the actual shooter himself. Another comic book Easter egg here too. FYF Pizza on the boxes here is from the boys' comics. It stands for Fill Your Face Pizza. Then we find out that the doppelganger killed this woman and her husband and just moved into their apartment and used it as a hideout. And we see the very gross way that her ability works. When they want to take a different form, they literally grow someone else's skin and rip off the old skin. It'd be like if Morph on the X-Men had to literally grow the skin of whoever he was copying and then rip it off each time to change. A-Train winds up giving Mother's Milk a big call to action, big pep talk. It did seem like he planned to leave before A-Train showed up. They do confirm what everybody believed. That moment that A-Train saw the little kid saving Mother's Milk was the best moment of his life, like the only time he ever felt like an actual superhero. And to be fair, A-Train is correct that if things go badly, no place on Earth will be safe from superheroes, so he could go anywhere and it still wouldn't help. We get a brief Soldier Boy reference. Kimiko's reading a magazine with him on the cover. Maybe they'll bring him back for season 5 just because they're going all out, and Jared Padalecki is supposed to guest star during season 5 as well too. So it would be funny to see him and Jensen Ackles on screen at the same time. Just the Supernatural TV show actors slowly taking over the boys, like there have been so many Supernatural cameos on the show. Samir then tells Frenchie about Butcher's imaginary friend. Technically though, it's not imaginary because it is a sentient tumor, it's just that Butcher can only see it inside his head. And it seems like Frenchie was lying when he told him that they wouldn't use the virus on Victoria Neumann because it's going to theoretically kill all superheroes, but also at the end of the episode, they say that it's probably only going to be strong enough to kill Victoria Neumann, it won't be good enough to kill Homelander. Firecracker incorrectly winds up pinning the leak on Webweaver. There have been a lot of theories about this after the whole debacle during episode 6, like maybe Webweaver will go down for the leak. There's a bunch of very, very gross web crapping during the episode. Like every time he gets nervous, he literally throws up or craps web, however you want to think about it, because his web hole is right near his butthole. You could just see them writing this character on the page, like writing this scene, and then the director on the day, like, let's have him crap web just a little bit more. Like, let's draw this scene out more and more and more. And you just watch Homelander trying not to throw up inside his mouth. Like, both him and Firecracker getting so disgusted just having to be near him. To his credit, Homelander also smartly guesses that Webweaver isn't really the leak and is just taking the fall for it because he wants another fix. Then when confesses it wasn't him, literally rips him in half like he's a piece of tissue paper. Then when Frenchie gives Kimiko a Christmas present, she's the one to help him with a pep talk. At the beginning of the show, you'll remember, he was the one who was trying to help her become more human. We get more backstory from her explaining why she stopped being able to talk initially. She felt remorseful for killing a girl on the first night she was in Shining Light after she'd been captured. It became a psychosomatic thing for her, and she just was not able to talk, even though physically she is capable of talking. So what'll probably wind up happening is that by the end of season 5, she will actually speak out loud. That'll be like the culmination of her arc, is that she's able to talk again normally. And it seems like her pep talk is starting to work on him too, and he's starting to process his trauma a little bit more. Then everybody pour one out for Ambrosius. They have the whole Deep versus Ambrosius scene, where essentially they kind of break up, and he basically winds up killing her. We also find out that as dumb as the Deep is, and he's dumber than the octopus, like the octopus lords over him as being smarter. That's actually not too far off from reality, like octopi are meant to be very intelligent creatures. But they also reveal that the Deep is like a savant for reality television because it starts quoting Lisa Vanderpump. He breaks her tank and basically kills her via asphyxiation. Her dying words, "I love you," will probably haunt him forever, even though they play that funny scene at the end of the episode with the whole love triangle. Killing her winds up driving him even darker, and I love the way that Homelander reacts later, like he thinks the Deep has genuinely gone nutters, even though he himself also goes crazier and crazier throughout the episode, and generally throughout the series. He sends him in Black Noir to kill the boys. The whole cracked table reflection of Homelander's picture is just meant to be a metaphor for his mind continuing to break, although the Deep's mind seems like it's also breaking too. Huey goes to see Victoria Neumann to try and appeal to her as an actual person, bring her a bunch of junk food. It seems like it was part of a ritual that they used to have on the regular when they worked together. And if you didn't realize, these actors have also been dating in real life, which is why it feels like they have so much chemistry in their scenes together. Huey drops a Mitt Romney reference, and she reveals that she didn't know the full extent of Homelander's plans, like the whole thing with the concentration camps and the prisons of Teknites. Here's the thing with her character, like the way they're positioning her is that she feels like she's trapped in this situation, like she's trapped in this alliance. I think she's probably going to wind up dying to try and help the boys ultimately, like she'll be a tragic figure, like she will wind up trying to do the right thing eventually, turning against the Seven and Homelander, and she'll wind up dying for it. Then we get a very, very funny fight scene. Like it's a good fight scene, but there's also a lot of comedy during it too. Butcher and Starlight start fighting the Deep in the new Black Noir. He tries to blame all the terrible things that have happened to him since season 1 on Starlight, makes a bunch of Me Too references, like all the dumb stuff that you hear the Deep yelling about all the time. They have a joke about Butcher having giant guns hidden all over the office that they pay off at the end of the fight, but they also use this for laughs too because the bullets themselves don't actually affect the new Black Noir, but because he has narcolepsy, he just passes out randomly during their fight. Butcher asking the sentient tumor to come out and use its venom powers and it not doing it is also meant to be a bit of a reference to Avengers Infinity War, like the Hulk not coming out when Bruce Banner tried to bring him out to fight. A-Train winds up saving them, with both the Deep and Noir realizing he was the leak all along. They have another joke about the new Noir talking, and he finally flies, paying off his conversation with the Deep last week. Mother's Milk then returning, taking him out temporarily with that giant gun the Butcher kept trying to grab out of the trunk. I already explained why Ashley does not go with A-Train, like she wants to help him, she wants to do good things, but ultimately feels trapped. To her credit, she does remind A-Train to cut out his tracking chip that Vought puts in all superheroes after they're given Compound B as children. All the boys have Christmas drinks at the dive bar. Mother's Milk calls his ex-wife to tell her that he's staying to help the boys. Butcher lies about his sentient tumor to Starlight, who's still the real Starlight, I think, at this point. We then find out that the woman who came to take a picture with Starlight, seeming like she was a fan, is actually the doppelganger who was trying to yoink her and replace her to get all the information on Victoria Neumann back from Huey's laptop. So it was here at some point after this conversation while they were still at the bar that she swapped Starlight out. Back at Vought Tower, Homelander looks like he's losing his mind again after learning A-Train betrayed him. He's not quite as upset as he was after killing the original Black Noir, but still pretty upset. Sage confirms what we all knew. She knew that A-Train was the leak the whole time and was just using him to feed misinformation to the boys, but now because of what Homelander has done, he's made that way harder for her to do. When he tries to fire her and she says that there's one person that he'll never be able to defeat, good luck with that, a lot of people will think that she's talking about Ryan, but you could also look at it, and I think this is what's really going on, is that she's saying that Homelander is his own worst enemy that he'll never be able to defeat. Think of it as him having to fight all the different broken pieces of his mind, those different personalities that we saw previous this season. He'll wind up being his own worst enemy. Notice also, they're very careful to show you, like they zoom and pause on this frame. She leaves her special notebook that she's been using to write her plan in this whole time. That's on purpose, like she wants them to have the notebook because she was just talking about using A-Train to feed specific information to the boys. So she's doing that now with the notebook. It's probably part of the contingency plan that she has because it sounds like she knew everything that was going to happen at every single turn, or she had contingency plans based on what might happen. So she probably assumed that at some point Homelander might go off the rails and develop some sort of contingency for that. Now the big question to ask is, what is her contingency plan? Like, what is inside that notebook and what is it going to cause Homelander to do? Couple funny moments when she leaves too, like notice how disgusted Firecracker looks when she suggests that Homelander have himself a little suckle of some milk. Like she hates it when he does that, but does it in order to keep herself close to him. He actually thinks about it for a second too, like he stares at her chest, but then is like, no, fine, just get out. Love this last tag scene with the Deep and the new Black Noir having their little bro-off moment, bonding.
Bro.
Generally, they've been using the new Black Noir for all these different twists. Like, how many twists can we throw in each episode? Like, well, he talks, he can also fly now, and also he's been getting it on with Sage this whole time. If it wasn't clear, the whole idea is that Sage was getting it on with the new Black Noir, but she wasn't dumbing herself down to do it. So like I said earlier, they have this weird love quadrangle going on between the Deep, the Octopus, Sage, who's having him dumb her down, and the new Black Noir, who she's also getting it on with. Samir then finishes the virus, injects Kimiko with it, then escapes, and you probably see where this was going because it was in all the trailers. Basically, Frenchie cuts her leg off to prevent it from spreading, and he's going to extract the virus from the leg so that they can use it again, potentially against Victoria Neumann. Ironically, when he was doing that too, she was staring at the stuffed animal that says, "the bee's knees." Then Ryan gets Homelander's voicemail that we saw him leaving earlier in the episode, who starts to have his doubts. Let me know if anybody else tried to call that 800 number that they flash on screen. I did try to call it, but it just got bounced, like it wasn't a real number. Butcher watches the special, seeing Ryan speak out against what Vought is doing, trying to do the right thing. He speaks with a sentient tumor again, who claims that he also shut Butcher out, so to speak, like Hulk did during Infinity War with Bruce Banner. Then winds up passing out on the ground, having to go to the hospital, so that'll probably pick up with him at the beginning of episode 8. Part of the idea is that there's a ticking clock on Butcher. I think he's meant to survive to like the very last episode of the series, but I do think ultimately Butcher will die. Like, there is no happy ending for him, or the happiest ending he will get is that Ryan will be saved. That was part of the reason why he made Mother's Milk promise to help raise Ryan, because he felt like he was going to die. Like, if I die, you need to raise Ryan and do it right. Notice how Homelander reacts when Ryan is speaking out too, how betrayed he feels, like the look on his face, like, oh my god, how could he do this to me? It's the same look he had on his face when he was yelling at Ryan for trying to betray him going to see Butcher in a previous episode, like, why am I not good enough for you? We all make the jokes about Homelander that his real kryptonite is milk, but technically Ryan seems like his actual real weakness. Then they have that crazy tag scene with Huey getting it on with the doppelganger version of Starlight, who sneaks into his apartment to get the laptop with Victoria Neumann's secrets on it, revealing that Starlight is stashed in some crazy dump of a house somewhere else in the city. The creaking door and the person entering might wind up being Sage. It could be the doppelganger character, but it'd have to be a bit of a time jump to explain that, because the doppelganger was just naked with Huey. So early theory, this might wind up being Sage coming to see her. Then over the end credits, they play that same Say Something song, one of the crazier songs they've had on the show. There are a bunch of Easter eggs and references. If there's anything you spotted in the episode that I didn't talk about in the video, just write them below in the comments. My full episode 8 finale video will post next week after they release it. And the other big reminder is that because The Boys is crossing over with the Gen V TV show, we'll get Gen V before The Boys' final season. Just like they did during Season 1, they'll have some plot that will carry over from this season of The Boys to Gen V, and then carry over to The Boys' final season. There's a bunch of stuff happening this week. We're supposed to get the Captain America 4 trailer as of me posting this video, so my video for that should post later today. My full House of the Dragon Season 2 Episode 5 video will also post on Sunday after they release it. Everybody click here for my Captain America 4 trailer video. I'll update the link as soon as I post that, and click here for all my Boys episode videos. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.